As of 2024, Star Wars still remains to be one of the largest IPs in the world. However, with the end of the first season of The Acolyte, fans are still once again divided. The last time that fans were probably, in my opinion, this divided was when The Last Jedi film was released. And since that release, we have been blessed with the amount of Star Wars shows that have been brought to our screens. Of course, Mandalorian was the first, and then it just snowballed from there. Star Wars seem to have this idea in their head that they're going for quality over quantity. Now, I think at the moment, they're not even getting the quality. Whilst some of the shows like The Mandalorian and Andor have been receiving high praise, others not so much. For example, Obi Wan Kenobi, The Book of Boba Fett, and now more recently, The Acolyte. So in today's video, I wanted to take a look at the state of Star Wars TV shows. So where do I begin? I think what we first have to do is go back to 2020 when The Mandalorian first aired. This was Disney and Lucasfilm's first attempt at a live-action TV show, and credit to them, it was a massive hit for them. On Rotten Tomatoes, it scored more than 90% both on the audience score and the critic score. I personally really enjoyed it. There were some great episodes. There was some really compelling storylines. I think the characters themselves were really great. Obviously, the Mandalorian himself, Pedro Pascal, is an incredible actor and portrayed the character brilliantly. Of course, the introduction of Grogu has been a massive win for Disney. The story surrounding him has been compelling, intriguing. There's been a lot of speculation. Of course, now that has all kind of been answered. We still don't necessarily know where he came from. Was he part of Yoda's family, etc.? We don't know. But it was just a really good way to actually get people fully invested in this Mandalorian TV show. And this is what I think Season 2 of The Mandalorian does really well. It builds on that foundation that was set by the first season. It gives us hit after hit after hit. It gives us incredible highlights, which include Ahsoka Tano, live-action debut coming into The Mandalorian. She, of course, subsequently gets her own TV show. But the character that Dave Filoni created in the Clone Wars then coming into live action, it was just one of the most hype things ever. I mean, you've got Boba Fett's return as well, which was teased at the very beginning, and he becomes a big part of the story, you know, later on. And you get characters like Bo-Katan come in as well, and it's just a really great season that does a lot of fan service. Speaking of fan service, obviously we get to the very end where we get Luke freaking Skywalker coming in and saving the day, saving Grogu and the team from Moff Gideon. I mean, I'm not gonna shy away from saying it. I was bawling my eyes out in excitement and just absolute shock at seeing Luke Skywalker going through, getting his hallway scene, and it was just what an emotional roller coaster to go on. And then to you know, finish off the season with Mando and Grogu leaving each other, it was just what a beautiful bit of Star Wars it really was. And then we had to wait 3 years for a final season. I'm pretty sure this was because Pedro had a few other jobs lined up. I think there was the strikes going on at the same time. So there had been a lot of build-up to this third and final season. There was, of course, a lot of speculation about what the story's going to be, where can it go, because in that time we also had quite a few other shows that had come out prior. We had, I believe, Book of Boba Fett, there was Visions, there was Bad Batch, there was a few other shows in between. So it's not like we didn't have any Star Wars shows, but their main flagship one was just gone for the longest time. So people had to speculate about where it was going to go. Boba Fett, you know, tried to catch people up as to what's going on with these characters. Probably not the best way to do it, in my opinion. I would have much preferred them just to leave Boba Fett's show for Boba Fett. So coming back into Season 3, you get the emotional goodbye in Season 2, and then bang, we're just straight back into them being with each other, no questions asked. don't even worry about it. And I think this is where it kind of really fell off for the shows to begin with, you know. And a lot of people were very excited to have the Mandalorian back again, but for me the third season was definitely its weakest, which is, you know, it's really not great. Most of the episodes were okay. I only really cared about the last two, but to be honest with you, it was more just about being let down after waiting for so long. And speaking about being let down after waiting for so long, that brings me on to a really good one. The Obi Wan Kenobi show. Holy shit, this was not good. And what I mean by this is that it was not at all what I wanted from an Obi Wan Kenobi show after waiting 20 years to see Ewan and Hayden come back. The writing was atrocious, the budget was nowhere near what it needed to be, the directing was not good, the fight scenes seemed clunky, the music at the end of the fight between Vader and Obi-Wan just didn't reminisce enough with me. There were some characters in the show that just didn't really need to be in it. Obviously, I know the Inquisitors, we got to see them, that was cool. But Reva's, you know, underpinning story just was unnecessary in my opinion. All I wanted to see was Obi-Wan and Vader. That was it. I didn't care for Reva at all. I didn't really care for Luke or Leia at all. I mean, it was cool that we got to see them. I understood that we kind of needed Leia's story to be in there so that Obi-Wan could actually come off world and do it. I understand all that. However, it just was not at all what I really wanted in an Obi-Wan Kenobi show. I think the budget really let this show down. It was only given a budget of 90 million. Where a show where your two biggest characters are going to be in it and it's a big special thing, and then to give them such a small budget is crazy to me. You have shows like Andor and Acolyte that had way more of a budget, but the story and the characters in those shows just aren't as interesting as Vader and Obi-Wan. So it still really does baffle me why you would have that much of a budget given to those shows, but not for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. I do think that the show had some really good parts. The fight between Vader and Obi-Wan was good. It was really emotional. You get to see Vader and Obi-Wan have their, you know, conversation at the end when Obi-Wan slices Vader's helmet, and you get to see Anakin in there, and it, you know, all that stuff's really good. I just really hope we get a second season of Kenobi or something like Kenobi, which carries on his story a little bit more, him with Qui-Gon, whatever it may be. I just really hope that they do something more of it and give them the budget that they need, the writers that are capable, and the directing that is good enough, and just give us a really good Kenobi show. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to talk about the Star Wars animated TV shows. I'm going to lump these all together. So that is the Clone Wars, that is Rebels, it's Tales of the Jedi and Empire, Bad Batch as well. I'm not going to do, you know, Visions and Resistance, etc., because these other animated shows are just leagues above those other two. So first of all, I'll start with arguably the best TV show that Star Wars, Lucasfilm, Disney has put out, and that will of course be the Clone Wars. It's peak Star Wars content. Anyone that disagrees with that is just thick in the head, essentially, in my opinion. Star Wars The Clone Wars is the best bit of Star Wars that we have gotten, period. It just is. We get an insight into Anakin's struggle within the Order, the fact that he gets this new Padawan in Ahsoka. We're introduced to her. What a great way to introduce her. Obviously, granted, a lot of people did not like her in the beginning. People were a bit confused. Oh, Anakin's not a master. How come he's got this Padawan? Oh, she's a little brat. Oh, you know, but shut it. She's wicked now, okay? I mean, you can just see the character development and the growth with that. And it just goes to show that what a little bit of good writing can give to Star Wars. So you've got Ahsoka, you've got Rex, top tier characters. You know, obviously there are some goofy episodes, but I mean, that's fine. There's 7 seasons. You're gonna have a handful of goofy episodes, the Jar Jar stuff, the droid stuff. A lot of, you know, episodes like that are just goofy, whatever, but it all is encompassing within the Clone Wars time period, so it all makes sense and it's all good, and nothing's really filler because they are all to do with the Clone Wars, so that's fine. Obviously, you get some amazing arcs on there. You've got the Siege of Mandalore, which of course was the ending arc with Darth Maul on Mandalore and the end of the Clone Wars. God, that was amazing. So good. Darkness on Umbara is incredible as well. Reintroduction, or the kind of bringing back of Darth Maul as well, was just an absolutely it was a retcon, to be honest with you, wasn't it? I mean, he was dead, and then George and Dave were kind of like, well, let's just bring him back, sort of thing. So that's what they did, and it was definitely one of the best things that they have ever done, bringing Maul back. He's my favourite character within Star Wars, just hands down. He's way up there. So, I mean, I was just super gassed to have him back, and his story with Savage and obviously Mandalore in the end was just wicked. So, yeah, I mean, Clone Wars is just good. It's just so good. You can't really watch any of the other shows really without watching Clone Wars, because now they always come back to it, especially the Ahsoka TV show. So what I'll do, I'll go on to Rebels. Likewise with Clone Wars, the animation style is different. It took me a while just to get used to it, and I think for the beginning it was definitely portrayed as more of a it was more of a kids show than Clone Wars was. Clone Wars eventually did find that its audience was a bit more mature later on. Maybe after season 1, season 2, they were like, okay, let's cater this to a little bit more towards the older audience. Rebels kind of did that towards maybe season 3, season 4, but you could definitely still tell that Ezra's instead of slicing the stormtroopers, he's actually just disarming them. He's cutting their guns in half and force pushing them away. But besides the point, Rebels is a wicked show as well. Highly recommend it if you haven't watched it already. Twilight of the Apprentice is incredible. I think it's the best Rebels episode, I think. It's a really good show. And to see the characters from Rebels come into live action within Ahsoka, it was really great to see them. Sabine, Ezra eventually, obviously, Hera and Zeb, of course, in The Mandalorian season 3. Just really great show. So what I'm trying to kind of get at here is, it seems like the animation for the Star Wars shows, the animated Star Wars shows, is kind of Disney and Star Wars' strong point. It's their strong suit. I mean, I can see that people didn't really enjoy Tales of the Empire. I, for one, did not enjoy Tales of the Empire as much as Tales of the Jedi. The Tales of the Jedi episodes with Dooku and Ahsoka were definitely a lot better than the Tales of the Empire stories with Barriss Offee and Morgan Elsbeth. I just feel like, for me personally, I resonated a lot more, or I cared a lot more, about Dooku and a lot more about Ahsoka than I did Barriss and Elsbeth. Obviously, I really wanted to see what was going on with Barriss. However, her story just did not end or turn out the way that I kind of wanted it to, or kind of expected it to. I just wanted her to go full on dark side Inquisitor, fuck shit up, but she just didn't. Just flipped, went back to being like a Jedi, and it's just all this sort of stuff kind of just flipped a bit too quickly for me, or a bit too too suddenly for me. But that's fine. The stories are short. They're nothing super crazy within the Tales of the Empire one. The Tales of the Jedi was big. You had the Dooku one, especially with Yaddle in there, so close to finding Dooku and Sidious, but just didn't in the end, unfortunately. So very quickly, I'll just go on to Bad Batch. The first season was ropey, in my opinion. The second season was better, and then the third season was a lot better. Finally getting into sort of the Mount Tantus storyline, the cloning, a bit more about Omega's story and everything in the third season was definitely what saved it for me. The first season with all of the Sid missions and then kind of going into the second season as well was just really, really boring. Not fun, not good. Just really not progressing anything anywhere. There was just a few little hints of, you know, sort of clones not obeying Order 66 anymore, getting a bit of an idea of where the galaxy is at, and, you know, that's fine, but it didn't, in my opinion, really progress anything far too much. But the final season was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. A lot of the stuff with, like I said earlier, the Tantis storyline and, of course, Omega's storyline was really good. And I think the most important thing is that I'm actually satisfied with where it ended. They all got their happy ending in the end, you know. The Batch retiring on Pabu, and also Omega then growing up and then going off to fight in the Rebellion. Really smart in that respect. They'll be able to bring Omega back in, you know, comics, other shows, possibly games. So that's a really good thing that I think they've done. I still wonder if there's a little bit of, you know, Force sensitivity in there that they might play on eventually, but we'll just have to wait and see. So yeah, Bad Batch, really good as well. Moving on now, I'd like to talk a little bit about Andor. I think Andor is a solid show. It did at times feel a little bit sluggish and a little bit slow, but the payoff was huge in my opinion. The heist and the prison arcs are really well done. I think my favorite for sure is the prison arc. Just some really, really great storytelling. It does kind of show you the beginnings of the Rebel cells and the Rebel Alliance, you know. I do find an issue with the Andor show, though, is basically Andor himself. I find that I know where his story ends up. I know we obviously know where a lot of characters' stories, you know, eventually go. But I find that I don't necessarily care enough for him anyway. I would much prefer to the story to kind of be following from the beginning Luthen, I think. We of course don't know where he's going to end up. We don't know how his story is going to end. So I think it would have been a really good idea to have him as the lead and then Cassian come in as kind of like a supporting lead. But that's fine. It's whatever. The show's still really good though, and I'm looking forward to season 2. We're getting down to the last 2 shows now. I know it's been a really long video and I do apologize. It's my first one that I've done. So if you've made it this far into the video and you've been listening to me ramble on, I really do appreciate it. So thank you so much. But anyway, it's going to be Ahsoka that we talk about now. This show is just fucking good. It's really, really good. There's not really any episodes that I'm not interested in, that I don't like. Ahsoka as a character in the first place is just wicked. She is one of the best characters that Star Wars has come up with, period. George Lucas and Dave Filoni, of course, came up with her in Clone Wars, and for her to then go into Rebels and then go into her own show, live action show, is the character development's just immense. The story writing and world building and kind of, you know, galaxy or universe building in Ahsoka's sense is just, it's wicked. We literally travel to another galaxy. That's how big the scale of this show is. It is essentially a Rebels season 5, but it sets up the cinematic universe more than anything really well. I really do think that we're going in for sort of like an Avengers Endgame Infinity War style film that I think Dave Filoni is directing. But the show as a whole, you've got episodes like the Shadow Warrior, where you get obviously Hayden come back as Anakin Skywalker in the World Between Worlds. It was highly speculated that would happen, but to see it live action firsthand, reacting to it, was just what a moment. So immense. And I can't think of really anything bad to say about this show. The characters are well thought out, the story's really good, the ending of it leaves you wanting obviously more, with Baylan going off and seeing obviously the father and the son, the daughter and potentially the mother we're hearing rumours about now. Shin, what's she gonna do? You know, she's kind of found those marauder pirate types And of course, Ezra's gone back home, whereas Ahsoka and Sabine are trapped in the other galaxy. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens, and I'm really, really excited to see what happens next. We're going to get on to the last show now. This show, you all know what it is. It's the Acolyte. Yes, boo, boo, smelly. I can already hear you saying. And I do agree with you guys. This show had a lot of potential. This had a lot of potential. When it first got announced, I think maybe this was either at a Star Wars Celebration or a D23 or whatever it was. I don't care enough really about the show to even fact check. But this show had a lot of potential when it first got announced, and the premise was spoken about, and interviews were being done, and the kind of hype around it was hyping. I was on that train. I was lead conductor on the train for sure. So what I'm getting at is that the show had a lot of potential. It had a lot of hype in the beginning. The cast that was announced was a big stacked cast. However, getting into the actual nitty-gritty of the show itself, so it's, I think, 8 episodes long. Yeah, it's 8 episodes long. They're all about sort of 30 to 40 minutes long, I think. And the first 3 episodes, don't bother with them. There's really not a whole lot that goes on. I mean, sure, it opens up the show and it tells you about the show and the characters. Yeah, cool. But basically nothing really interesting happens until episode 5. Episode 5 is the best of the show. It's basically an episode of just fighting. And the fighting is, I think, really, really good. That is one positive that I will give this show, is that in episode 5, the fighting is really, really good. I love the Cortosis helmet and armbands that the Khmer has. His lightsaber's, pretty damn cool, and the effects that happen are really cool when the Jedi hit it. The deaths in the episode are shocking and really good. I think they're really well done. A lot more violent than a lot of other Star Wars shows. We see certain characters' heads get spun 360 degrees. We see certain characters get turned into kebabs. We see heads, well, we don't see, but we can assume that heads come off. We can see that skewers are being made of certain characters as well. So it's a lot more violent for Star Wars, and I think was actually very refreshing to see. I want to see a lightsaber do damage to characters, and I think this did that very well. So yeah, if you're going to watch The Acolyte, just watch episode 5, basically, in my opinion, just for cool action. Just watch the fight scenes. That's all you really need to watch if you want to just get a bit of action, Characters, Sol and Khmer, they are very good. I am a Sol and Khmer defender. I really do like their characters. Other characters, they're not in it for that long, so you don't really need to care about them. And then Osha and May, unfortunately, I just don't think their story was properly realised. I don't think that the writers or directors knew quite what to do with their main. They flip-flopped quite heavily, I think, with the characters. And I think they also just didn't quite get the landing right for the characters, unfortunately, because I think they could have done really well. Take the character that you've got, Osha and May, but just don't mention the fact that they have been made by witches, by the Force, and then I think you would have probably saved yourself a lot of audience backlash. Just take that out. You go into the writer's room and you think, actually, I think that Anakin's the guy that gets made by the Force. You know, you might get some people that don't like this, and they go, actually, we'll probably not do that. So just take that out of the characters, and then the characters are fine. But unfortunately, a lot of fans obviously did not like this, and they ran with it, and then the show got a lot of hate, and then viewership numbers went down, and that was that. You know, the show got slammed quite heavily for this. It got slammed quite heavily, I think, for what people were calling it woke. I don't think the show is woke particularly. I hate it when people sort of slap that phrase around. It's just, you know, if you don't like something, you just it's woke. The show's not great, but it's not because it's woke. The fact that it's a female lead does not bother me. The fact that it's a female person of colour as a lead does not bother me. The fact that there are witches which are potentially in love does not bother me. It bothers me when the show is just bad, basically. You know, it has nothing to do with it about being it woke or anything like that. It's just that it was not very good. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the end of my video on the Star Wars TV shows in 2024. Now, I do realise that I've missed off a couple potentially, and I do realise that we have Skeleton Crew at the end of this year. But I've been making this video for a good few months. I want to say about 5 to 6 months. That I've been making this video, and I kind of just want to get it out there. I'm getting a bit impatient, and I just want to send it out there. It's already quite a long video, but I just want to push it out there as my first one. Let me know if you've enjoyed my video. Let me know if you've agreed or disagreed. I'd love to just talk to people about Star Wars and the state of Star Wars at the moment. For me personally, it's neither here nor there. It's very much just, it just is. Do you know what I mean? Star Wars needs something big. The Acolyte wasn't it. The 3rd season of The Mandalorian, unfortunately, wasn't it. Ahsoka was it. I think Andor possibly was it. But recently, I don't think anything has been. Next year, hopefully we get something good. Hopefully Skeleton Crew's good. And maybe I'll come up with a video in between then. But until then...
Obi Wan, may the Force be with you.
Goodbye, old friend. May the Force be with you.